Where are you? Where do you live? Despite the simplicity of these questions, the answer for many is not so obvious. Today, when families choose a place to live, they join the story of that land and the story of the Indigenous people who have cared for and continue to care for that same land despite all odds. Choosing to live in a specific place carries with it the responsibility of being a good guest on that land. And how does a good guest behave? At the very least, a good guest shows respect and takes steps to understand the history of the land and the people who have lived on that land forever. For many Native people, existence in the world is intimately tied to place. Standing at the base of an ancient redwood tree, on the shore of a river, or at the edge of the Pacific Ocean can feel like standing in deep solidarity with one's ancestors, who passed down practices for stewarding and caring for the land since time immemorial. Becoming aware of the Native communities in your local area can lead to many positive changes in how you see and understand the world. You may learn new ways for caring for the land on which you live. You may gain insights into family values and dynamics that differ from your own. You might deepen the connection to the places that you and your community members call home. Especially for your Native community members, taking the time and effort to learn about the traditional and contemporary locations of Native people goes a long way in developing trust. To help you begin the process of acknowledgement, try answering the following prompts. Name as many Native communities as you can. Now, notice which of these communities are located in your state. Now, what Native communities traditionally lived in your county? And then lastly, where are those communities now? If you cannot answer these questions, don't worry. Many people are unfamiliar with the modern locations of Native peoples. But to help you better understand the Native communities around you, we've made a list of steps you can take to begin to fill in any knowledge gaps. First, you can visit native-land.ca or any similar type of map that exists on the internet and type in your zip code. Take a moment to explore the traditional homelands of the local Native peoples in your area. This will help you develop a better understanding of the historical presence of the Native people in your community. Once you feel you have a good understanding of whose traditional land you are currently occupying, head over to BIA.gov, that's the Bureau of Indian Affairs website, and search Tribal Leaders Directory to view a map of current tribal government locations. This will help you better understand the current political aspects of the tribes in your area. While exploring the BIA website, you'll learn more about how these tribes are autonomous and sovereign nations, just like the United States, and have their own ways of governing, enacting policy, and making decisions about their own lands and people. Tribal governments is a complicated subject, so if you're confused or have trouble understanding everything on the website, don't worry. We'll be talking more about it in later lessons. Finally, visit ihs.gov, that's the Indian Health Services website, and search IHS locations. This will lead you to a map of every IHS-run clinic, hospital, and care center across the country. These centers operate with the goal of providing culturally competent and responsive care to Native patients and contain a wealth of resources and information for understanding the strengths and challenges surrounding health and wellness faced by Native peoples. So how can I bring this information into my classroom and workplace? What's in a name? Have you ever taken the time to research why certain places have certain names? Some cities are named after figures from Greek mythology. Some are named after famous colonial explorers. And some are even named after Native people. When we learn about name origins, we might wonder why a certain name was chosen, and if the name accurately represents the place or not. Names are often tied to interesting histories and legacies, and when these stories are brought into the classroom, they can spark conversations about who and what our culture chooses to memorialize. This gives us some insight into our community values as well. Not only that, but Native people are actively reclaiming places across the country and reconnecting these places with their original names. How cool is that? Places that for tens of thousands of years were called one name, but were then invaded and renamed, are now being reconnected to their previous names. Let's help welcome these names home. Everywhere is Native land. Showing students the original territories of Native peoples challenges them to see the world through another's eyes. Like that mountain one student hikes every Sunday with their father, it's actually the center of the local tribe's origin story and holds a sacred place in that community's culture. Or that river that everyone goes swimming in during the summer, it's actually the main source of salmon, a keystone species and staple food for the local tribe. Encouraging students to take on these perspectives by exploring maps is one giant step towards building empathy with Native peoples.